In this video, I want to take a brief moment to wish all those students who are about to sit their final exams the best of luck in the coming weeks. For anyone who sent me questions on Tick Boom, hopefully I've been able to give you a little bit of extra knowledge and boost your confidence, particularly with your math exam coming up. Back when I was doing the HSC, math was by far my best subject, and it's ultimately where I got my best marks. Since then, over the last 3 decades, I've been doing exams. I had high school exams, university exams, exams in master's programs, the CA, the CFA, psychometric tests for job interviews. It's basically been a lifetime of exams for me. And something I'd like to do in this video, over and above wishing you all good luck, is to also share a few tips that I've learned over the decades to help make exams a little bit less stressful and help you ensure that you perform at your best. So I want to work through 3 things that I found helpful. Obviously, there's many tips for how to do well on exams, but 3 things that I myself find really help. First, stick with what you know. Now, what I mean by that is, as you come towards your exam, in the last few days before you're about to go take the test, what you need to do is rest your brain and consolidate your knowledge. So don't try and cram anything new as you lead up to the exam. It's really just a time for revising your existing notes, consolidating what you already know, because what you don't want to do in the few days before the exam is come across something that you don't actually know and then start stressing yourself out and going into the exam stressed. The key is to rest your brain and relax as you lead up to the exam. So that's step 1. That's the first thing I'd advise. The next thing that I found really helps me is don't get psyched out. And this is something very specific, but what I mean is that as you're literally waiting to walk into your exam, I find there's always at least one person who's going to want to talk to you. And often these people, whatever they say to you, it ultimately psychs you out. Sometimes they just talk about how much study they've done, or actually they might talk about how much study they haven't done, even though they really have. And all they're really trying to do is boost their own confidence by psyching you out. And my advice is don't engage with these people. Naturally, you probably want to end up getting to your exam venue early. You definitely don't want to be late, because then, you end up stressing yourself out and panicking that you're going to be late for the exam. So you definitely want to arrive at the venue early. I often try and get there around half an hour before the exam will start. But what I often do is don't actually turn up to the entrance of the exam early. I'll either, depending on where the exam is, I'll wait around the corner at a coffee shop, or if it's at school, I'll go to the school library. Really, I just want to be anywhere where I won't bump into someone who's also taking the exam, but I want to be close enough so that, when I'm coming up to the time where everybody will start walking in, I can just stroll over, walk straight into the exam, go to my desk, and minimize that risk that I have a conversation with someone who's going to try and psych me out. So that's the second thing I found is really helpful with exams. Don't actually loiter around the entrance before the exam. The last thing I'd say is to let your brain work in the background. And there's a few elements to this. First of all, the reading time that you get given at the beginning of your exam, actually read the exam during that time. Don't just look at the first question and start trying to answer it in your head, ready to write it out once the official time starts. Read the whole exam, because what it will do is it will get your brain ticking along, and it's amazing how much your brain will process in the background without you even realizing that you're doing it. So as you work through the exam, my advice would be, having read it all during the reading time, just work methodically from the beginning. Answer those questions where the answer is clear to you, where it's quite straightforward and you know what to do. And as soon as you hit a question where it's not so obvious what you should do, don't linger on it. Just move on right away. Don't even hesitate. Because once you've read that question and you realize that the answer isn't apparent to you, your brain will still keep thinking about it even as you move on to other questions. And so what you ultimately end up doing is you end up looping through the exam. You do a first sweep where you answer everything that's obvious to you. And that way you end up getting all the marks that you know you can get easily. You don't miss out on any marks because you wasted too much time dwelling on something that you ultimately couldn't answer. You at least get all the marks you know you can get. Then you do a second sweep where you take a second look at a whole bunch of questions. And it's amazing how the light bulbs will start to go off on some of them because you've been processing it in the background. So you do a second sweep, answer whatever you can, and you just keep repeating that process. Keep looping through, staying calm the whole time, not worrying that you're not able to answer these questions right away, just having the knowledge that your brain is ticking away at it. So as you're writing out an answer to a particular question, you've got your brain working in the background on all these other questions. So loop through, do your best, and always remember on these exams, the people who write these exams, they're not trying to trick you. More often, they're actually trying to guide you to the answer with how they write the question. Often those questions that are broken up into parts, the earlier parts are helping you to tackle the later parts. So if you are looping through the exam and finding that there's a few questions that just won't stick, like you just can't work out what it's about, try and see if there's any hints in the question that the writer has dropped in that will help you. That could be the key. If you're stuck on a question and it seems like a trick question to you, my advice would be it's not a trick question. So just think about what you know and what you've learned and how the question might be trying to help you get the answer. So those are my 3 tips. They're things that have helped me over the many decades of exams that I've been doing. If you have any other hot tips for things that you find helpful in exams, please feel free to share them in the comments and help out those who are about to go into the final exams of their high school. So once again, best of luck to everyone sitting their exams, and tick boom.